going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now,
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are back with another live duel, and I haven't actually had a chance to sit down and look at this duel, mainly because I was actually playing in this locals. Now this locals was Friday gone, or the most recent Friday basically, and I got there a little bit late. I didn't have a chance to kind of like do my vlogging and setup kind of thing. It was straight in. I was late for round 1 as it was, and I started a little bit late and I got absolutely destroyed. But I think I finished with a record of X2 overall. But I thought to myself, you know what, seeing as I'm not going to be able to kind of like record my vlog, I'd go ahead and record a few duel videos of some other decks. And the decks that we have here are PK Brave versus Tearalaments. Now PK Brave still can do a few things. It's kind of fallen off because it used to be the Cyflock deck, and amongst other things it used to just basically be a little bit degenerate, but now it seems a little bit fairer, and it still can put out some pretty powerful boards. As you can see here, just comboing off. Apologies for the glare, ladies and gents, but yeah, comboing off, goes into Rusty, hits the Ragged Gloves off the Rusty. So setting up quite a formidable board. Got a Omni-Negate in the form of Wandering Griffin Rider, a couple of Fog Blades set. Also got the Draco Bat equipped to the token, so the token can't be destroyed by battle. So it's going to take some doing to be able to kind of like defeat this board. Now, couple of Fog Blades set. Ooh, but I am seeing a super polymerization in the hand of the Tearalaments player, and that is just going to clear 2 pieces of the board, done and dusted, and the board is broken in one foul swoop. Now it does have a couple of Fog Blades left, but we are seeing a Primeval Planet Pellerino, which is definitely going to be a problem. It's probably going to pop one of the Fog Blades on field, and we already know where this is going, ladies and gents. Like, Super Poly is a card. It's you love to hate it. I mean, in the sense that if you have the card, it's nice, but being on the receiving end of a Super Poly is just, it feels awful, to be honest. Just because you can't respond to it, there's nothing you can do basically. So goes into a Muddy Mud Dragon with the Super Poly, and is just proceeding to do a whole host of Tearalaments plays here. Has the Rhino Heart to be able to activate its effect. Hasn't really gone into any of these fusion monsters as yet, but he does have access to a lot of his Tearalaments monsters, which means that this player is actually going to be able to build quite a formidable board. See our PK player Reed here. I believe Muddy Mud Dragon can change the attribute of the monsters on field, and he goes into the Kit Kalos, pop in the token with the field spell because a fusion monster was summoned. Kit Kalos is going to net him a search, and this is looking awful for the PK player. Like, at some point I believe that the Tearalaments player is definitely going to try and go into a Time Thief Redoer, because he does have a couple of level 4s on field, as well as the Kit Kalos, and I believe here it comes. Yep, so Time Thief Redoer has hit the board, ladies and gents, and it's crazy that this card detaches for an effect, as well as being such a huge disruption on your opponent's turn by just taking the top card of the deck. Now he's going for the Kit Kalos play here to be able to mill 8 cards, which is crazy. So he hits a whole host of Tearalaments monsters off that. That is absolutely amazing. Like, you couldn't have asked for more basically. So proceeds to then go ahead and fuse using his Tearalaments monsters effects, puts a few back on the bottom of the deck, and then goes to fuse again, which is absolutely just crazy. So puts back the Kit Kalos, goes into the Kaleido Heart as well as the Garura, which is crazy. So I don't think our PK player has enough to be able to block the number of attacks, but we shall see, ladies and gents. So looking through his graveyard, seeing if he's got any kind of graveyard effect that could kind of try and like affect this board, which I doubt it very much. Goes into battle phase, swings with the Time Thief Redoer for 2400, swings with the Muddy Mud Dragon for 19, and then swings. I think they're just calculating attack here. Goes to swing with the Kaleido Heart. Now, actually, that's my miscalculation. Because of Primeval Planet Pellerino, the Fusion monsters as well as the Tearalaments monsters do get a 500 flat buff. And is just doing some calculations here, so he's able to beat over the Torn Scales as well as the Boot, and then Garura, believe it or not, does double battle damage, and along with the field spell, it should be on 2000 attack, so that is enough for game. So we seen a Tearalaments just take a strong showing right there, ladies and gents. Very, very strong. Okay, so going into game number 2, players have drawn up. Now, we did see Super Poly effectively just break the PK player's board, and once again we see our PK player open up with the Rite of Aramasir going into Fateful, which is always a nice feeling. Has the normal summon for the PK monster whilst searching the Draco back. Now, it's interesting the way that he sequences plays here, because in the previous one, he kind of took a while to get the Griffin Rider established, which is always a little bit of a risk, but then here he's decided to go for the Griffin Rider early, pitching the Draco back equips itself to the token, and once again we see him commit a couple of monsters to the board before actually committing the Draco back. Sorry, not the Draco back, the Griffin Rider, but nevertheless, Griffin Rider is on field. We've got Cherubini hitting the field, sending for cost, might I add, to be able to increase its attack. Dumps the Torn Scales. And then we see the search for the Shade Brigadine. And he's also got the Wielder as an extender, and decides to go into Shooting Riser Dragon, which is a little bit of a different one. Okay, sends the Necroworld Banshee. That is definitely a nice little tech right there. Makes the Shooting Riser a level 3, goes into Levia the Sea Dragon to be able to revive from the Banish pile, which is a very, very clever play. So he's got the Necroworld Banshee engraved. Now, I'm not too sure how much that's going to affect the Tearalaments player, but then again, in saying that, turning everything into zombies can be a bit of a problem, because I believe Kit Kalos requires aquas to be able to fuse into. Now, typically Tearalaments do not play many board breakers. Sorry, they do not play many hand traps, but they do play board breakers. But I'm not too sure if he sided in any back row removal to be able to kind of like deal with any of the potential back row or even field spells that the PK player is about to put up. So he does indeed banish the Necroworld Banshee to be able to set a zombie world from the deck. And ending board, we've got a Wandering Griffin Rider. We've got a couple of Fog Blades set. We've got Levia Sea Dragon as well as a token. Now, he does start off with a Dark Ruler no more, so PK player doesn't need to be worried about being OTK'd. But he is playing under Zombie World. It's going to be interesting to see how much of an effect that's going to have on his end board. So, starts off with the Danger. Snipes the Jackalope, but manages to resolve the Nessie, and then obviously Jackalope's gonna go and resolve its effect. What do you think, ladies and gents? Do you think that the dangers are gonna come back to 2 on the next ban list? I'm not too sure. Jackalope and Tsuchinoko are a little bit of a problem, to be honest, but if they want to sell the Danger Dark World deck, it's probably a good idea to do so. So looking at our Tearalaments hands, we are seeing a couple of dangers in there. And I believe that's a Mary discarding the Danger Thunderbird. Able to mill 3 here. Does hit a Tearalaments monster, but that is met with a Core by the Grave on the Havnis. So we won't be getting any graveyard shenanigans from the Havnis, as the Core by the Grave has actually resolved successfully. Now, he is still playing under Dark Ruler no more, so there's always a potential for a Zeus play right here. So I believe that he's trying to force out the Fog Blades by going into Time Thief Redo. And my only thought is he could be going into Zeus, but like I said, they don't have much of a follow-up because of that Zombie World's on the field. Could potentially be slowing them down a little bit. So decides to go into the battle step, beats over the Levier, and is met with a Fog Blade. And it's interesting to see because you can wipe the PK player's board, but there's so much graveyard recursion in a PK deck. It's almost like a another resource basically. It's like a second hand almost. So it does indeed go into Zeus. Now it's only got 3 materials, so it's only going to be able to send 1, which is not that much of an issue when you can clear a whole board, but they are not left with the most amount of resources. You've got a Zeus that's basically blown its effect, and then we've seen in the end phase here the effect of Fog Blades reviving the Rusty as well as the Torn Scales, and then drawing for turn. Decides to banish a PK monster from grave to be able to search one, which is crazy. So I believe he searched the boots here. Normal summon. Decides to go into his breaksword and using Rusty's effect to pop the Zeus. So Zeus is no longer a threat. Only 2 cards in hand for the Tearalaments player, and we've got the PK player with almost unlimited resources here. So he does indeed dump the Torn Scales off Rusty's effect to be able to set the Fog Blades. And then banishes the Fog Blades to revive the Silent Boots. And then Torn Scales' own effects being able to jump out of the graveyard, which will enable another level 3 or rank 3 play here. And this is what I was saying, ladies and gents. Look how much this has just spiraled crazily out of control. He just played through a Zeus wipe and he's actually gone and been able to go back into Rusty. He's got Breaksword on the field. Goes into Dark, revives the Bigfoot, and that is it, ladies and gents. The Tearalaments player has seen enough, ready to get OTK'd. Does not have much follow-up in his hand, and he concedes losing game 2. So PK player has brought it back, but he is going to be going second against a Tearalaments player that can actually go first or second. And we know how much of a card win there is. So let's get straight into the third game, ladies and gents. Okay, we are here for the third and final game. We're seeing both players on 1 win, and the Tearalaments player is going to be going first in this instance. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the PK player can actually play through this, and we are seeing a stacked hand from the Tearalaments player. Starts off with Instant Fusion, which is just crazy to be able to bring out the Kick Kalos. You can almost guarantee that it's going to be milling at least like 8 cards or something crazy like that. So proceeds to search the Rhino Heart. Normal summons the Rhino Heart, activating its effect to be able to either add or dump a Tearalaments monster. Decides to dump the Sharon, and then using Kick Kalos to be able to use its effect to mill. Does not seem like he hit the most impactful of cards right there, ladies and gents. And I actually played against this player in locals, and he did actually say to me that as good as the deck is, you are kind of subject to your own deck building and your own luck of the mills. Now, if you're playing a couple of techs, whether that be some side deck cards or anything like that, you can actually run the risk of just milling those cards only and not actually seeing any of your engine, despite maxing out on more or less every card. So it is what it is at times, but here we're seeing some kind of combo. Proceeds to go into the Dragos Tapalia. Once again, apologize for the glare. Decides to activate Jackalope. Jackalope gets discarded and summons. Decided not to summon the Mothman. He does have a 4 on field, I believe. Well, he does decide to summon the Mothman after thinking about it. So we still have a potential to do something here. So overlays 2 level 4 Tearalaments monsters for the almighty Abyss Dweller, which is probably like an FTK against PK depending on the matchup. So then decides to proceed into a Sprite Elf just to protect his cards from targeting, which is crazy. So Fog Blade is going to be a bit of an issue. Decides to I believe either draw or standby phase the Abyss Dweller. So no graveyard effects for the PK player, which is almost like an FTK, but he does have the almighty Rite of Arimathea, which is literally opened up in every single hand, which is absolutely crazy. Another candidate for a card to be either limited or even semi-limited on the next ban list. This time decides to go early into the Wandering Griffin Rider. Decides to hit Meiru's effect and actually merely misses, does not actually hit any Tearalaments monsters, so that is unfortunate. And we are going to see the Draco back do some kind of removal here. I believe the fusion monster is going to go. Duel is not too much of a problem because it can be quite easily beaten over. So decides to use the Draco back here. Now we can't actually target Dweller because of the Sprite Alf. So Sprite Alf basically protects any card that it points to, so he's forced to bounce the Sprite Alf back to hand now. But then he's still got extenders for days, which is crazy. Proceeds to normal summon the Water Enchantress, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Still has quite a few cards in hand, and we know that Tearalaments don't typically play too many hand traps because I want a Mill Engine and I've got Board Breakers. So decides to go into Dark as he knows there was plenty of fodder in the graveyard. Decides to take the Mothman. Or does not take the Mothman, which is interesting. I wonder why Dark wasn't activated right there. However, he does have the Super Poly, which is absolutely crazy. So Super Poly is off the Dark as well as the Predaplant Dragostapelia. Just reading his Starving Venom just because it's probably a long time since he summoned it, but decides to go and beat over the Dweller. Proceeds to Water Enchantress, so he's got a follow-up for next turn, and it's not looking too good for the Tearalaments player. He does have Snow, however. And the Snow does get Fog Bladed, which is absolutely crazy. So we're seeing a Link summon into another Sprite Alf, which was bounced previously. And he does go to Snow here. So Snow will banish, I believe it's 7 cards. Try to book the Wandering Griffin Rider here, just to be able to try and do some stuff. Our opponent does let the Snow effect work, and oh my days, he has not hit the best off his Tearalaments plays right here. And I believe, ladies and gents, time in the round got called, so we're seeing PK taking it in time. I don't think there was much that could have happened, mainly because they wouldn't have been able to go into battle phase because time in the round was called. So the Tearalaments player didn't have enough damage on board to effectively like punch for any more kind of damage, mainly because Starving Venom had already done its damage, beating over the Dweller and taking some of the Dweller's attack. So it would have been a bit of a difficult one. On top of that, the Starving Venom could also had blown up the opponent's field as well. So it was a bit of a precarious predicament to be in, going second as well for the PK player. Super Poly, ladies and gents, one hell of a card to say the least, but it is what it is. Anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you do like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.